Hello you beautiful misfits, my name is Matt and this is the Game Awards 2016 episode of Pixel Burn where I natter on about the Game Awards 2016. Hosted for the most part by the Doritos Pope himself, Geoff Keighley, who has for years, to his credit, strived to make an award show that recognises the work of people in the games industry, an annual event, all while putting up with Doritos Pope jokes and snarky gits like me watching from home and taking the piss out of the proceedings. Sadly, I didn't get to watch it live because it was on at 4 AM UK time and I had work in the morning, so I watched a recording of it later on IGN's YouTube channel. I would have watched it on the official Game Awards YouTube channel, only YouTube's Content ID system had flagged it as copyrighted content and muted the audio for the entire video, rendering it useless for watching or using in a video like this one. One can only assume IGN got their video up first and then immediately filed it with Content ID to be protected from mean, nasty content thieves like the Game Awards themselves. Whoops. Anyhow, the show itself was live streamed around the world,
even in China.
A point Geoff was keen to mention throughout the show. Geoff, you do know China has video games, right? You're not smuggling Levi jeans and wagon wheels across the Iron Curtain here. Anyhow, the show was hosted at the Microsoft Theatre in Los Angeles, California, the same venue as last year's Game Awards. Also a recent venue for the Grammy Awards, the setting for 5 season finales of American Idol, and the unholy nexus of evil where holographic anime golem Hatsune Miku was shat onto US soil. Before the main awards themselves, there was the pre-show segment, which I actually sat through this time. Long-time fans of Pixel Burn will know I tend to skip pre-show segments, but this bit had some awards and other stuff in it. Like Pokemon Go winning Best Mobile and Handheld Game and Best Family Game, a bunch of random open world shots of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild interspersed with Link hitting robo-spiders and Zelda not showing her face, and Randy, Father of Lies Pitchford announcing Gearbox Publishing. Yeah, I probably could have skipped this bit, couldn't I?
The Game Awards 2016 is about to begin.
I'm sorry, they're about to what?
It's about to begin.
Okay, I know that's just a slip of the tongue, but that was kind of worth sitting through the pre-show for. The show proper began with Geoff righting what he perceived as a serious wrong committed at last year's ceremony by presenting Hideo Kojima with the Industry Icon Award. Or, as Geoff himself put it,
we had to be back on the same stage as last year to give one man a moment he was robbed of.
From which we can safely infer that Konami weren't sponsoring the show this year. For those of you familiar with Keighley's Final Hours series, where he'd chronicle the final hours of a particular game's development, the clue's in the title after all, he provided an abridged version of sorts for Metal Gear Solid 5.
I think what happened to Hideo Kojima last year was a tragedy, but he never complained. He just sat in an isolated room for months, looked inside himself and focused on his art. He hoped that his love of entertaining us would carry him through the darkest days of his career, and we thank him for all that he went through.
Christ, you'd almost think he were presenting an award to Terry Waite. And there I go showing my age. Well, it's not far off actually, since that isolated room comment isn't a metaphor. In an interview with Glixel before the awards, Keighley said Konami literally locked Hideo Kojima in an isolated room every day for the last 6 months of Metal Gear Solid 5's development, forbidding him to talk to the rest of his team except through an intermediary. This is actually a common practice amongst Japanese companies, though not officially acknowledged, designed to pressure employees into resigning voluntarily so they forfeit certain benefits. Well, that at least explains the abrupt ending to Metal Gear Solid 5. All snarky comments and jokes aside, however, this was all in all a really rather lovely moment. Geoff looked almost on the verge of tears about the whole affair, and Kojima himself was also clearly very emotional, which made for a charming, touching, very human moment.
Last year, I thought I lost everything, but I didn't lose anything. Thanks to all of you. I thank you all for your support. I love you, Geoff, and Game Awards. I love games. I love this world. I really love you all from my heart.
Aww. Bless him. Kojima then showed off the second trailer for Death Stranding, featuring a CGI Guillermo del Toro hiding from warplanes with tentacles and oozing worm tanks leading units of skeleton GIs through a ravaged war-torn landscape. Del Toro then checks his secret baby in a can is okay, unaware he's being spied on by a scary-looking doll connected via sinister black cord to none other than Danish actor, star of Hannibal and unconventional heartthrob Mads Mikkelsen. My girlfriend went absolutely nuts over this bit. Leading a squad of his own skeleton GIs through a sewer. Like the first Death Stranding trailer with Norman Reedus and the Funky Fetus, this was a pleasure to watch from a purely cinematic perspective. Whereas the first trailer was very vague and left lots of room for speculation, however, this one has more immediately familiar Kojima elements, such as the dismal consequences of war, the dehumanization of soldiers, in this case reduced to literal walking corpses, and the idea of war machines as quasi-living creatures, a la Metal Gear. Mads Mikkelsen's reveal by way of removing his goggles also mirrors that of Snake's in Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes. Frankly, there are so many other little details I could probably do a video entirely about this trailer, although I probably won't. There'll be squillions of other things out there by the time I get this one done. Rebecca Ford from Digital Extremes then popped up to chat to Geoff about Warframe and introduced the trailer for a new update. Get used to me saying trailer, by the way, because it'll be cropping up a lot. Following that Death Stranding presentation is about as unenviable a position as you could probably get, but Warframe is a game about cyborg ninjas, so you could argue it was the only appropriate choice. Plus, following something as huge as Death Stranding with a smaller free-to-play affair gave the proceedings a nice bit of contrast. There then came a blink and you'll miss it trailer for The Last Guardian that didn't show much we haven't already seen during the last 9 years. Boy chased by soldiers, boy sees Griffin, boy jumps off ledge and grabs onto Griffin's tail. By this point the show was starting to feel less like an industry-wide celebration and more like a pre-show for the PlayStation Experience on Saturday, December 3rd. Thankfully, it was Microsoft who had purchased the next advertising slot, which they filled with the trailer for Gears of War 4. Indeed, most of the copious amounts of notes I took while watching this event can be distilled into one sentence summary, starting with the words "an", "for", and "advertisement". I'll spare you as many as I can. Speaking of advertisements, we then got the first of many Assassin's Creed Red Room presented by Alison Hayslip and sponsored by AMD segments, where Alison Hayslip talked about people playing Assassin's Creed VR on AMD-powered PCs, in a room that was predominantly red. During which we got a new trailer for the Michael Fassbender Assassin's Creed movie starring Michael Fassbender, which was mostly clips of Michael Fassbender we'd already seen in previous Michael Fassbender trailers of Michael Fassbender getting pulled up into the air by a patented Michael Fassbender lifting device, before the whole thing fades to a Michael Fassbenderless void. Cue a musical number by American hip-hop supergroup Run the Jewels, who are supposedly also in Gears of War 4, presumably on the soundtrack and not as playable characters. While it did feel a bit too early in the show to have a musical interlude, they had good stage presence, were having a whale of a time and didn't look to be taking themselves too seriously. Plus they had lyrics like, "Picture this, I'm a bag of dicks, put me to your lips, I am sick," and "I will punch a baby bear in his shit." So these chaps get a thumbs up from me. After that, it was time for another of those shining rare moments where an award was given out, this time for Best Art Direction, presented by Troy Baker, Emily Rose and Nolan North. Inside by Limbo creators Playdead snatched the prize ahead of Overwatch, Abzu, Firewatch and Uncharted, and also claimed the Best Indie Game Award, according to the announcer. Playdead producer Maz Vibro came up on stage to collect the trophy and also do a spot of moonlighting for the Copenhagen Tourist Board.
Copenhagen is wonderful and Playdead is hiring.
After that, it was back to the commercials. Sorry, world premiere trailers, which are just like commercials except they're sandwiched between two copies of this world premiere splash screen. This one was to confirm Telltale Games are making a Guardians of the Galaxy game, something loads of people already knew because it got leaked as a result of the voice actors strike. Somewhat ironic given we'd literally just seen 3 voice actors presenting an award. We then got a couple more adverts, culminating in a segment so cringeworthy my skin had to be surgically reattached afterwards. See, at least with ads for gaming stuff like this one for Skyrim Remastered, the exact same one we saw at E3 in fact, or this advert for the Mean Streets of Gadgets Arn expansion for Hearthstone, you can tune them out. But then you get moments like this abomination in the eyes of God, where a man dressed as a robot with a razor for a head fist bumped tertiary host Kyle Bosman. Speaking of which, this pretty much defined Bosman's role at the awards, to present insufferable stomach-churningly commercial segments like this one. Whether he was being punished for some horrendous karmic misdeed in a previous life, or whether Geoff Keighley bartered Kyle's dignity for sponsorship in a satanic pact with Chick Hydro Razors, we may never know. Now, Chick Hydro Razor Man here probably seemed really cool in the brightly lit executive boardroom that spawned him, but as with many things dreamed up in corporate boardrooms, like adding a pacifying agent to a colony world's atmosphere, sending a family to investigate a crashed alien spaceship full of bioengineered killing machines, or genetically engineered super soldiers, it doesn't work quite so well out in the real world. Nor does Chick Hydro Razors teaming up with NetherRealm Studios to make this 16-bit style fighting game segment where Chick Hydro Man robot thing fights his deadly nemesis, Lube Strip. Now there's a porn star name for you. A fight that ends almost as soon as it begins, because Chick Hydro is a cheesy fucking stun-locking shit tier character for scrubs. If that weren't insufferable enough, the real one comes back with this shirted, oh dear God, please make it stop. Incidentally, chic is a German word meaning suave, stylish, cool, sophisticated, fashionable, and other words that could never ever be used to describe these segments. Oh yeah, there's more of them. Conan O'Brien popped in via a pre-recorded segment to present the award for Best Action Game out of Battlefield 1, Doom, Titanfall 2, Overwatch and Gears of War 4, all represented with this montage of what your mother sees in her mind's eye when she hears the word video games. Doom ultimately walked away with the award, and deservedly so, because it's absolutely ace, although I did feel rather bad for Titanfall 2. Not quite as bad as I feel for the creators of Doom RL, the Doom roguelike however, whose creators have recently been hit with a cease and desist letter from Bethesda's parent company ZeniMax. Yep, apparently ZeniMax thinks this ASCII turn-based RPG is a threat to their multi-million-dollar brand. After that, it was straight to another award, with nary a single commercial interrupting things. Whoa, Geoff, whoa, calm down. Don't spoil us now. This was the Games for Impact Award, the criteria for which, according to the Game Awards website, was a thought-provoking game with a profound pro-social meaning or message. Hence the nominees being games like That Dragon Cancer, about a child's battle against that awful disease, Blockhood, a game about building neighbourhoods with a thought to the surrounding environment, Sea Hero Quest, designed in association with Alzheimer's Research UK, Orwell, in which state surveillance is crowdsourced to the same public that's being spied on, and 1979 Revolution, a game about the Iranian Revolution of 1979. So who better to present such a meaningful award than iJustine and Matt Pat here? Christ almighty, could you not have got someone with maybe a tad more gravitas to present this award? Like Skeletor perhaps? Or Mr. Tumble? Because it's really rather jarring to have iJustine and Matt Twat here announce That Dragon Cancer as the winner in the same cheery tone a newsreader would use for a story about a cat stuck up a tree.
The Game Award goes to That Dragon Cancer.
Ryan Green, co-creator of That Dragon Cancer along with his wife Amy, was at the ceremony to receive the award, and his acceptance speech was, well, I'll let part of it speak for itself.
Sometimes a story is written onto us, or it's told because of us or in spite of us, and it reveals our weaknesses, our failures, our hopes, and our fears.
I do urge you to listen to the entire speech if you get the opportunity to. It's certainly not an easy thing to sit through, admittedly, but it is a beautiful, personal, human moment, a real highlight of the awards themselves, and a very moving testament to the power of video games as a medium for telling all kinds of stories. I'd also like to praise Geoff Keighley for taking a moment afterwards to talk about the award, as it established a necessary buffer between Ryan's heartfelt acceptance speech and the mandated advertisements queued up after it. Sure, jumping to a commercial for Doom was still somewhat incongruous, but without Geoff creating that little bit of breathing space beforehand, it would have just been utterly crass. After another stream of adverts, we came to the Trending Gamer Award, presented by Peter Moore of EA, introduced as Chief Competition Officer. Now there's a bland yet sinister euphemism for you. Chief Competition Officer. That's the kind of title you'd give Agent 47 if you had him on your company payroll. The nominees were Angry Joe, Boogie2988, Danny O'Dwyer, Jacksepticeye, and someone called Lyric, who I've never heard of, although perhaps I should know who Lyric is, because Peter Moore seems to imply these people might be some sort of threat.
Outspoken, unchained, passionate. These gamers stream right into our houses.
Is this an award or a public service announcement? It could almost be a PSA, couldn't it? The proper old school creepy British ones I grew up with, like The Spirit of Dark and Lonely Water, Protect and Survive, or my personal favourite, the one with the kids who get electrocuted trying to rescue a football from an electricity substation.
Independent online personalities in this country, in this world. Outspoken, passionate, unchained. These gamers stream right into our houses, establish themselves, and can view our relationship with our friends.
The winner was Boogie, by the way, who, as well as receiving a trophy, also got a nice non-fatal hug from Peter Moore, Chief Competition Officer. There was another stream of ads after that, starting with Cliffy B. Blazinski showing off a trailer for Lawbreakers, which looks rather a lot like a hero shooter a la Overwatch, yet, according to Hardcore Gamer, isn't. Before he could show us the trailer, however, Geoff Keighley inadvertently triggered some kind of dormant programming in Cliffy's brain left over from the early 2000s.
Dual-wielding weapons called Alpha and the Omega. You can fire each one individually using mouse 1 or mouse 2, reload one at a time, fire one in front of you while blind firing one behind you, propel yourself through low gravity, tactical knife, whole 9 yards, as well as a new way that you can kind of surf around gravity in the map.
Beep boop beep boop, I am CliffyBot, commencing info dump. Anyway, more ads. There was one for Titanfall 2 that, oh god, that's just depressing. I know they were promoting sales on various stores throughout the show, but seeing Titanfall 2 marked down by up to 40% off so soon after release just makes me want to cry. Anyway, Hearthstone ad disguised as ad for novelty Winter Veil album, another Assassin's Creed Red Room segment.
Everyone back here has been diving into the Spanish Inquisition.
Bet they didn't expect that. Then we cut back to Geoff explaining why they don't have a fancy presentation for every award during the show itself. A fact he aptly demonstrated by casually mentioning The Witcher 3 Blood and Wine had won the award for Best RPG, beating out Dark Souls 3, Deus Ex Mankind Divided, the World of Warcraft Legion expansion, and Xenoblade Chronicles X. A victory that caused something of a teeny bit of outrage since Blood and Wine is technically DLC and not a full game. Although calling it a DLC doesn't really do it justice, Blood and Wine is very much a proper expansion in the vein of CRPGs of old, like say, Baldur's Gate 2's Throne of Baal expansion, which was named Role-Playing Game of the Year by the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences in 2001. How's that for a precedent? Had CD Projekt Red stolen the award with some poxy horse armour or a fully integrated and developed party member locked behind a paywall, then sure, you'd be well within your rights to complain. But Blood and Wine beating heavy hitters like Dark Souls 3 and Deus Ex Mankind Divided shouldn't be seen as an insult to those games, rather a testament to the quality of Blood and Wine, which is bloody great. No pun intended. After that, it was time for another musical interlude, courtesy of Mick Gordon, the maestro behind the soundtrack for the new Doom and upcoming retro-themed sci-fi indie horror Routine. This bit was fucking great, by the way, although obviously I can't let you hear any because I don't want YouTube's rampant copyright robots gunning for my channel. So instead, do yourself a favour and load up a playlist of the Doom soundtrack, then put your headphones on and crank it the fuck up. We then came to the award for Best Performance, 3 of which were for Uncharted 4 cast members Troy Baker, Nolan North and Emily Rose respectively, 2 for Firewatch, Rich Sumner and Cissy Jones, and Alex Hernandez for his role as Lincoln Clay in Mafia 3. Nolan North won, unsurprisingly, and used his acceptance speech to not only give major props to series creator and all-round industry legend Amy Hennig, but to also chafe a few industry hides by referring to the recent video game voice actors strike.
Performance matters. And it does. The performance of every designer, every programmer, every artist, every hard-working, talented person at that office, not only Naughty Dog, but all the developers that I've worked with, but Naughty Dog in particular because they've been with them for so long. That performance is so important. They are so talented, they are so hardworking, and their performance matters more than mine. And that's important to understand in this day and age with all the talk going back and forth. Because without their performance, my performance would not only not matter, it wouldn't exist.
Some people interpreted this as Nolan throwing his fellow voice actors under the proverbial bus, forgetting of course that Nolan is himself a member of SAG-AFTRA and has previously stated that he stands by his union and will be joining the strike. People also forgot the strike is only against a specific group of publishers and not the entire video games industry. To me, it just seemed like Nolan North was calling for some good old-fashioned solidarity between voice actors and everyone else involved in the development process, from coders to artists, thereby unifying 2 of gaming's biggest labour issues, developer crunch periods and crappy voice actor contracts, under a single banner to make conditions better for everyone. The alternative is to believe Nolan North deliberately set out to alienate all of his friends and colleagues and piss off the very union he relies on for work, before going home to laugh himself comatose atop a mattress of stacked dollar bills. And people call me cynical. We then got a bit of gameplay footage for the new Prey, presented by Raphael Press Sneak Fucks Colantonio of Dishonored creators Arcane, which is surprisingly running on CryEngine instead of some variation of id Tech. The game itself looks to have some zero-G bits, a very Bioshock feel to its aesthetic, tools like this gel to let you do some Dishonored-style vertical navigation of environments, and you can seemingly transform yourself into a coffee cup to get through small windows. After some more ads, including that cool Gold Dust Woman one for Dishonored 2, Kyle Bosman atoned for more of his past life misdeeds by wearing a VR helmet for the amusement of the show's sponsors. Olympic swimmer Michael Phelps then appeared, in meat space that is, not virtual reality, to present the award for Best Esports Player of the Year, instantly ingratiating himself with the esports community by referring to them as fellow athletes. I'm not being snarky, by the way. I do honestly feel that was a very cool thing for him to say, and a real boost to the legitimacy of esports as a genuine sport, like chess in the Olympics. Unfortunately, this segment didn't resonate too hugely with me as I don't really follow esports, so the nominees of players with names like Faker, Byung-Hyun Woo, Infiltration, Hungrybox and Coldzera kind of flew over my head a bit. Brazil's own Coldzera, real name Marcelo David, claimed the award, with the charming acceptance speech in Portuguese that his interpreter translated into English, for people like me who don't speak Portuguese. At least I assume it was Portuguese. Like I said, I'm not an expert. We then jumped straight to the award for Best Sports/Racing Game. Yes, it has a slash in there. Presented by Respawn Entertainment CEO Vince Zampella. Despite a surprising lineup of two footy games, FIFA 17 and Pro Evo Soccer 2017, American sports still dominated this category with NBA 2K17 and MLB The Show, a baseball game FYI, representing the home side. None of those games won, incidentally. The prize got snatched up by Forza Horizon 3 instead because cars. I suppose O Jogo Bonito, as Pele would call it, hasn't quite fully cracked North America yet, despite its growing popularity. There were miraculously no commercials impeding our progression to Reggie Fils-Aimé of Nintendo America presenting some more footage for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, introduced by a pre-recorded Eiji Aonuma and played by Nintendo's Bill Trinan and Nate Bildorf of the Nintendo Treehouse team, in a manner best described as a choppily edited Let's Play. Despite the visuals looking kind of washed out, like they had the gamma turned up way too high, it was overall, however, a pleasant, low-glitz, matter-of-fact presentation of Breath of the Wild's gameplay, which, albeit, still looks somewhat Dark Souls-ish. Like that's in any way a bad thing. Tragically, having 2 awards and a gameplay presentation in quick, uninterrupted succession meant we were well overdue for a barrage of ads, like this Mean Streets of Gadgets-on one we'd already seen, an ad for The Elder Scrolls Online, and oh Jesus Christ, not shit fucking Hydra twat again. Some of you might be thinking, boy, I'm sure glad Matt sat through all that commercial shaving bollocks so I don't have to. You don't get off that easily.
Hydrobot, at it again. Hydrobot is gonna school me on how to protect my skin from irritation. Hydrobot is gonna school me on how to protect my skin from irritation.
Hydrobot is gonna school me on how to protect my skin from irritation.
Yeah, suffer. Suffer like I did. This was followed by a trailer for the upcoming Spectre of Torment DLC for Shovel Knight, which, to be honest, after another torturous session with chick bloody Hydra twonk, was more of a relief than anything. Even more of a relief was the soothing tones of Mark, voice of Tranquility Cerny, whose words calm even the most savage of hearts.
Alfred Hitchcock famously said, to make a great film, you need 3 things: the script, and the script.
This was his way of presenting the nominees for the Best Narrative Award, which were Uncharted 4, Firewatch, Oxenfree, Inside, and Mafia. Uncharted claimed the prize, and Neil Druckmann and Josh Scher of Naughty Dog accepted it on behalf of the team, after another shout out to the legendary Amy Hennig.
And I guess finally I want to thank Amy Hennig, who without her work, these characters wouldn't even exist.
By the way, if any of you know where I can find a recording of Mark Cerny reading a telephone directory, pop it in the comments down below. I need a cheaper way to de-stress after a day at work. Moving swiftly on, we had another Assassin's Creed Red Room segment showing more Michael Fassbender as Michael Fassbender in Assassin's Fassbender, an ad for the Xbox One S, an ad for the PlayStation Store, and then a segment with Kyle Bosman giving a sort of extended promo for the PlayStation Store. Bloody hell, Kyle, what could you have possibly done in a previous life to warrant this level of humiliation? Build a castle out of the bones of murdered children? Fortunately, before Kyle could degrade himself further, we got Dan Ayuba 343 Industries to talk about Halo, specifically Halo Wars 2 and how people who pre-order it can get special preview access to a remastered Halo Wars 1. We then got a trailer about the bad guy in Halo Wars 2 because some people still care about the derivative lore of the Halo universe. Tim Miller, director of Deadpool and one-time visual effects supervisor on Mass Effect 2, presented the award for Best Game Direction to Blizzard for Overwatch, before Geoff Keighley offered to give away a free PC in the shape of a World War I tank. I got nothing. It does look pretty snazzy though. After a bunch of yet more ads and another Assassin's Creed Red Room segment that Nolan North did his best to try and make interesting, Kyle Bosman took a break from shrieking himself of bad karma to introduce another musical segment. This time it was Ray Sremmerd featuring Gucci Mane. Whoever they are, they put on a spirited enough performance, I guess. It just wasn't my cup of tea is all. Two people from Rooster Teeth then announced the nominees for Best Action Adventure Game, which were Dishonored 2, Uncharted 4, Ratchet & Clank, Hyperlight Drifter and Hitman.
And the Game Award goes to...
I don't care, it should have been Dishonored 2.
Dishonored 2!
Oh. Okay. You know, this category really could have done with a more suitable name. Unless we're now taking the word adventure to mean sneak up on someone and cut their throat then hoist their limp carcass into a bin, otherwise known as How to Survive Your First Night in Margate. Up next was Kevin Bruner from Telltale to show off an trailer for Telltale's Walking Dead Season 3, in which we're playing a different character again. Spoilers. Sort of. We play a chap who watched his dead granddad munch on the rest of his family in happier, pre-zombie infested world bereft of hope or joy times, and has now teamed up with Clementine, several years after the end of Walking Dead Season 2. After yet more commercials, of course, including a mercifully brief one for Fallout 4 and nary a glimpse of chic Hydra Wazak, BioWare's Aaron Flynn showed off a brand new trailer / gameplay video for Mass Effect Andromeda, which consisted of a load of spiffy shooty bang bang moments, some walking around not shooty bang bang moments, an annoying voiceover waffling on about Pathfinders, and some rather noticeable issues with facial animations, awkward dialogue and lip syncing.
All I see is the trail of bodies they left behind.
At some points it's almost dubbed 1970s martial arts movie levels of bad.
On guard. I'll let you try my Wu-Tang style.
Maybe it's all just placeholder stuff they'll eventually get smoothed out. Still, seeing these obvious rough patches so close to release, in promotional material no less, is a teeny bit worrying. At least the vehicle exploration seems awesome, and the combat looks to be far more bloody dynamic than Dragon Age Inquisition's hold the left mouse button until something dies approach. Although I do have to say this bit, where the protagonist scans a crime scene, reminded me a bit too much of The Witcher 3's Witcher Sense moments for comfort. Christ, the game even has a hulking quadruped monster called a Fiend in it, like Witcher 3 does. That player kill animation is pretty cool though. Very rancorous. Geoff himself then returned to the stage to A, indicate the end of the show was at last within sight, and B, to announce the winning nominee for the Game of the Year award out of Titanfall 2, Doom, Inside, Overwatch and Uncharted 4, a reveal someone in the audience spoiled right before Geoff could announce it.
Here it is.
Yep, the winner was Overwatch, something I had spoiled for me before I could even watch the awards, since fans of the other nominees immediately spunked their collective disappointment about it all over Twitter. I could sit here for another 10 minutes debating the merits of all the other games that were nominated, but I won't. Instead, I'll merely say it's interesting to see an online multiplayer game without any real single player component walking away with the main prize. And with that, the awards were over. So, to summarise. For all my sarcasm and piss-taking throughout this interminably long video, I have to give credit where it's due and say the awards have definitely improved. Yes, they're still the glitzy industry-sponsored shindig packed to the gills with commercials they've always been, yet they're not a completely insufferable industry-sponsored shindig packed to the gills with commercials. Some of the promotional and sponsorship choices could have been handled better, sure. The Chic Hydro Razor segment in particular was so cringe-inducing, it could be months until I'm able to take a shit again, and the show often felt like a tug of war between Microsoft and Sony. One minute it all seemed like a glorified pre-show for the PlayStation experience, the next it was as though Microsoft had outright bought the entire shebang. You could practically see the joins between each advertising block. Maybe, instead of weaving the ads into the fabric of the show itself, for future awards there could be proper designated ad breaks, so you know when to quickly go nab a cup of tea and a sandwich. At least most of the ads were just trailers you could easily tune out, and I could still tolerate most of the more obnoxious Kyle Bosman fronted ad segments. Chic Hydra spunk notwithstanding. Nitpicking aside, the end result at the very least feels like a proper award show with all the pros and cons that entails. The video game equivalent of the Oscars that Geoff Keighley has been so clearly, dearly wanting to make ever since he wrote his first voiceover for the Cybermania 94 Game Awards. Yes, obvious commercial compromises were made, but I'm happy to put up with a load of trailers I've already seen if moments like Ryan Green's heart-melting speech for That Dragon Cancer, or Amy Hennig receiving a shout-out from Nolan North and Naughty Dog, get their time in the spotlight. So yeah, the Game Awards aren't a perfect, flawless ceremony. I wasn't expecting them to be, and to be honest, they shouldn't. It'd be too boring otherwise. Does everyone watch the Oscars to stroke their chins, nod respectfully and be overwhelmed by the serious artistry of it all? Of course not. Loads of us watch it to take the piss out of it, have a laugh and chat about it with each other, to chuckle at someone's clearly rehearsed teary acceptance speech, collectively grumble when a sci-fi movie doesn't win a non-technical award, or pretend to be shocked when someone says something controversial. So we can do the same with the Video Game Awards. It's something we can all come together for, to laugh, joke, agree and disagree over for shits and giggles. Or alternatively, to be moved by personal stories of the positive effect of video games on people's lives and see people recognised for their hard work. In conclusion, awful Chic Hydro segment aside, I strangely enjoyed the Game Awards 2016 this year, and I look forward to being snarky about them next year. Preferably in a much shorter video. That's all for this episode of Pixel Burn. If you liked it, then please do let me know by clicking the requisite button down below and subscribing as well if you haven't already. And let your friends, your family and China know as well. At the very least, I hope you found it tolerable. Meanwhile, till next time, as always, you can go now.